I am incredibly white. You could balance a camera with my family tree. I think they modeled the color of salt off of my great grandparents. My sheets are actually called Eccles sheets. My name is James. I grew up in a place called Mountain Brook, and if you're from Alabama, then you know what that means, likely. There's a sort of connotation that comes with saying that you're from Mountain Brook or behaving as though you are from Mountain Brook. And I try very hard not to behave that way, because it's where the rich people come from. It is where all the rich white people come from. Sure, there's your Vestavias, some little nooks and crannies of Hoover and Huntsville, but like, Mountain Brook's kind of the place. That's where the stigma really lies too. There's not a lot publicly redeeming about Mountain Brook because it's so exclusive, because it is kind of far from everything else, and you have to go out of your way to get in there, and you would have to go financially out of your way to live there. And that's where I grew up. That was my life until I was 18, and then I went to college, and of course everything's different now. Because that's what happens when you go to college. You learn new things and you meet new people, blah blah blah. I should mention that this video is primarily in response to a video released 2 days ago from a channel named F.D Signifier called Bo Burnham's Inside and White Liberal Performative Art. And I thought, boy, that's relevant to me. I'm a progressive white person who wants to make art. Am I being performative, right? With my wokeness, with my perceived sensitivity to other people's either orientation, race, or whatever. Am I attempting to profiteer off of social minorities as a social majority? Of course, it's interesting. Let's get some. I read an article. Because I get spitty. I get really spitty when I'm talking to a microphone. I read an article that you're supposed to stay hydrated. That was particularly brought to you by the gays. Water, but now gay. Stupid. It's a stupid joke. Why did I say it? But he talks about this white habitus, the concept that racism isn't the responsibility of racists, right? And I think hopefully a lot of us know that. I know a lot of us don't. Us being liberal white people, I'm gonna be honest, that's probably who's watching. That racism is an institutional issue that affects the social minorities and the racial minorities of our nation and indeed our world on a daily basis in the most mundane and unexpected ways. I feel like a good example that he didn't necessarily bring up was how people of color are treated in hospitals. You're more likely to die in a hospital and not receive the same care if you're black. Doctors don't listen to you when you're not white. He talks about a lot of things in this video that I think are obviously really important issues. He talks, I mean, the core of the video is Bo Burnham's Inside, which if you follow my Instagram, you know that I'm working on a project centered around. And I think he very accurately points out that Bo is incredibly self-aware and has that sort of he has his fingers on the pulse in a way of that I think a lot of people in his position do not. And I think he cares, which is a big part of it to me. Of course, there's the issue of I'm white, what do I do? Right? And Bo talks about that a little bit in Inside, a fair amount, I'd say. What is he supposed to do, right? Like, he alone, with the wealth that he's accumulated, can't fix the societal issues that are plaguing the world. I meant to turn this on so I have a consistent light. Bo alone can't solve racism, poverty, all of that. Like, he is certainly in the upper class of society, but he's not some billionaire that can essentially buy out poverty, right? He has no reasonable means of curing institutional racism aside from pointing out that it exists. So I think a lot of white people are struggling with the concept of, okay, well, I'm not even as powerful as Bo Burnham. What the fuck am I supposed to do? Because, and this is just how it feels from the seat that I'm in, of course, feels like if I, and here I am worrying about getting fucking canceled. I'm trying to speak for people who are in a similar situation to me. Anything I say in this video is an active attempt to participate in the conversation. I obviously don't want to offend anybody, and I'm not trying to say that I'm 100% correct. Just want to talk. But that's a trap, right? That's a symptom of my whiteness, that I feel as though I am entitled to say something on this matter, that I am entitled to respond to what you've said, so aptly and so eloquently already. I'm speaking to JD, of course. I don't know you, but your video was lovely, and I hope you're watching this. But I, with my upbringing, with the life that I've lived, with all the advantages that I've had monetarily, societally, I feel as though I get to speak on whatever matter I feel like speaking on. I think a lot of black people feel like they can only speak about black issues. A lot of like people in theater that I know feel like they can only work on the black show. They can only write shows about black things, about black culture. And that's stifling, right? That the prominent black YouTubers that I watch mostly talk about issues for black people, whereas white people don't have to do that. White people can even talk about black issues. White people can talk about any issue. I can talk about your video. I can talk about Inside. I can talk about systemic inequality. I can run for office. I can do all these things, and I don't feel impeded at all. I'm not worried. I'm not worried about someone threatening to kill me just because of how much melanin I have. I'm not worried about someone walking on the other side of the street just because I'm there. So what are we as white people, as woke white people, right? Woke, supposed to do? This is gonna sound weird, but I think it's a similar issue to global warming, right? There's this sort of lack of control that we all have that we would very much like to have. That all the people our age, we all want this. We all want to fix the problem. We all want to address it head on and make substantive changes. But there is an entire system, like centuries of bureaucracy and systematic lack of reform that we'd have to overcome to make the changes we want now. And there's a bunch of old white people in our way. Now, these old white people aren't necessarily the racists that are causing this to happen. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say that Mitch McConnell is causing racism. However, Mitch McConnell is in the way of preventing reform for racist systems. I think the most realistic thing that I've heard recommended to white people who are curious and trying to help is to just be aware and be conscious and to be aware of the struggles of others and help when you can, right? Like, if you get in office, help pass some shit. If you are the head of a workplace, try and make sure it's racially balanced. Maybe get some friends that are people of color. That might help you a little bit, bud. Maybe play Dungeons and Dragons with the black kids sometime. But there's so many obstacles, right? So first it's the awareness of white habitus, of the fact that racism isn't caused by racists, it's caused by institutions. So that's the first barrier. That you have to be like, hey, the way you see racism is fundamentally flawed. So digest that. Maybe that'll take a year and then get back to us, right? And then there's, okay, you are participating in this by not knowing, and you are benefiting on a daily basis because of your skin color. Okay, take another year, process that. And it's these little things, they're going to accumulate, and it's going to take years of these people's lives. It took years of my life to really try and digest it. I remember people getting upset with me. I had a coworker ask me, so are you racist? And I said, I feel like it'd be dishonest of me to say that I'm unequivocally not racist. My high school, there were 6 black people in my high school when I graduated. 5 of them were brought there specifically to play basketball. Like, brought in, drafted to play basketball. And then there was Majan, who was a very, very nice man. I do not know why or how he was there. Just from a statistical standpoint, the conditions I was in are not ideal for developing a rounded sense of the world. Popping that bubble is not easy, and it doesn't pop for a lot of people, ever. They will always think that they got where they are because they worked hard, and that their race didn't play a factor. When what a lot of white people need to understand is that their race not playing a factor is the factor, because race plays a factor for minorities. Therefore, if your employer looks at you and they don't think about your race, you are benefiting. I don't know, shit's complicated. I'm just some white kid. I'm 23. Like, what the fuck do I know? What do I know? You talk a lot about he talks, you talks. I don't know if you're here, but let's pretend that you are. You talk a lot about woke liberal art, right? And we won't get into the semantics of liberal as you discussed in your video. I happened to watch Solari's video on nostalgia just before your video, so I'm thinking about that right now. He discusses how a lot of people grab onto nostalgia because the future seems so unrealistic, right? So with global warming and things just kind of getting worse and worse politically, like, it's hard to fathom a world in the future where things are like better. But I think it's a similar situation with white liberal art, where the only thing that we can think to express is right now. I would also like to see that clip of Bo Burnham talking about. He's extremely well spoken. But as you say that he said, about how we should sort of, as white people, step back from thinking and speaking so much, let some new ideas bubble up from people of color, minorities, women, like people who haven't been speaking for hundreds, thousands of years. So I think I'll shut up.